Anxiety is like the fear of the future. You're
Ooh.
forecasting, you're assuming things are going to happen to you and they're not because you're just making those assumptions. However, I'm a manifesting queen and I do realize when you put those thoughts in the air and those anxiety driven ideas, it will come because you're asking for it. So why not change your mindset?
Woo! Welcome one, welcome all to your place for everything empowerment. I am your host, Tariq Williams, and not only I am Vision of Hope, but we are Vision of Hope. And welcome back to the Speak Your Vision podcast. Super excited for today's episode. We have an amazing guest, but before we get started, once again, thank you for being here. Share with a friend. You know this is your place for everything empowerment. So who would you be to not share empowerment with your friends and family? So go ahead and share the podcast with someone. Once again, I'm super excited for today's episode. And you know what we're about empowerment, but also about resiliency. So be sure to don't forget to check out the free guide 15 steps to resiliency and check that out. But without further ado, let me tell you about my special guest here today. I actually ended up seeing my special guest today. I met her on social media and all of her empowering content and mindset coaching. I was like, yo, I gotta be friends with her. And so I am so blessed and happy to have mindset coach full of building confidence. If you want to build confidence, you got to talk to this woman right here. So, ladies and gentlemen, everyone, all individuals here, I want to introduce you all to Amanda Bussiere.
Thank you so much, Derek. That was so awesome.
Yeah.
You're amazing. Feeling is totally mutual. I love your energy. You're just such a great human being. I'm so glad we met.
I hope you're not just saying that. And full disclosure, the first time we all talked to everyone, listeners here, I was yawning quite a bit. I was tired. But I told her because I had woke up late. I was up all night reading one night, and then I woke up late. It was a whole thing. But no, for sure. I want to make sure that we're delivering that value. Um, but once again, Amanda, thank you so much for being here. And I want to start off the podcast by asking you, we're going to go over this topic here of the importance of showing up and what that looks like as your authentic self. But I want the listeners to learn more about you first. So, what is one word that describes why you want to become a mindset coach?
Unworthy. That's exactly how I felt in the past. I felt so unworthy. And now that I broke through the old patterns and limiting beliefs, I've discovered my own self worth and my own confidence.
Unworthy. Wow.
Mhm.
I gotta say, I like to think about and or guess what my guests are gonna say about what the one word is gonna be. I have to be honest, the word unworthy was not on the bingo card.
No,
Um I wouldn't have guessed unworthy, but I that's really interesting. So
but
I
you
want to
do.
oh, go ahead.
It's so funny because as you're going through it, you don't even know that's what it is.
Mm,
Like when you feel that way, you have no idea that's what it actually is
mm.
until you start doing the work and you're like, oh my gosh, like you don't even know that's what the problem is until you start doing the work and doing the stuff. You're like, oh, it's because I felt I didn't deserve this. I didn't feel worthy of it because of all these roots that were deep down inside your subconscious thinking that you're not even worth it.
So let's dive into those roots a little bit more. What did you feel? Because now you coach people through this. So let me ask you then, what did you feel that you were unworthy of?
Love,
Mm,
anything. Like I didn't feel like as a child, we all have our own ways of needing love, needing to feel accepted. And I feel that we all have those problems growing up, whether it's through our friends, our family, acquaintances, society as a whole, we have these expectations of being somebody that we're actually not, right? So
Mm.
then we feel that we have to put on this mask because we're not even presenting ourselves how we actually are. We're not being truly authentic. So then we hide who we truly are.
Wow.
And then those roots get dug deep down inside because you pretend to be somebody that you aren't for so long that you don't even know who you are anymore. And you're just so lost.
Wow. Wow. You know, it's interesting. I have so many thoughts in my mind right now with that because and I like to go off the cuff and everything like that. And I didn't anticipate going here so quickly. But when I think about being unworthy, I mean, immediately my blindness comes to mind, right? And it's so interesting because when I became blind, I thought that I was unworthy of everything. The sacrifices friends and family have done for me, being my friend, friends and family, parents working, mom working, all that's unworthy of all those things. Because it was like, Tariq's blind now. Tariq is never going to accomplish all those different things, right? As if to say, because I was now blind, I was defined by that. Um, and so it makes me think, like, I've never walked up to someone, or Amanda, like, you've never walked up to someone and said, "Hi, my name's Amanda, and I have 20/20 vision." Like, nobody does
Right.
that.
No, no.
But it's like that we think that we said to believe that our hardships like define us. Like, I thought because I was blind I wasn't able to do anything anymore. And so you saying, like, that unworthiness of love to the root, and feeling that unworthy feeling, that really hit me pretty hard. Because I've felt that for sure. And so, feeling unworthy, I I guess let's start to move forward here. Tell me more about that unworthy piece. How did we even get there?
How did we even get there? It's just, I don't, like I said before, you don't even realize it because you don't know who you are, right? Because you have these limiting beliefs or these belief systems that have been incorporated in you by your parents. And it might not even be, it's not even your parents' belief system. It's brought on from tradition, right? So they're just doing what their parents taught them. They might not even know how to love you the way you need to be loved because that's how they were raised, right? And
Mm.
like some people need affectionate touch. Some people need to have words of affirmation. They need certain things to feel loved. And every person has a special way of feeling loved. And if they don't receive it the way they need it, they're not going to develop the way they should. And as a kid, you don't know any better. And, as society, we're told you can't do this, you can't do that. You have to be a good student and you have to do it this way. You're not allowed to step outside of the box and be who you are. So you're stuck being this person. And if you step outside of the box, you're not good. You're
Mm.
told you're not good. So you're just being this person who society thinks you should be.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like that you were in a pretty dark place at one point. How did you work yourself out of that?
Yeah. I was in a really deep, dark place. Like I was spiraling so hard. I was so lonely. I was feeling alone was is probably the best word. Even though I was married and I had a family, I had two healthy, beautiful girls. I just felt so alone. And I was ready to leave this world. I didn't want to be here anymore because I was that miserable. Then I made the decision. I'm like, well, who's going to raise my kids? Like my girls were little. You have to remember they were really little. Like they were probably 2 and 3 at the time. I'm like, their dad isn't going to be able to be there for them because he's going to have to work extra hard. So what am I going to do? So that's when I flipped the switch. I'm like, I got to do something. So I started doing exercise and diet because moving your body and eating properly immediately makes changes in your mindset about how you feel about yourself because it changes biochemically inside of you. And then I started getting into podcasts and listening to positive audiobooks. I found Ed Milet. He honestly changed my life. I'm going to give him credit. He changed my life because I listened to him and he shed a light on me totally. So and then I hired a coach to help me through it. And I just did the work, showed up every day, even though I didn't want to. I just had to show up because I thought if I don't show up for me, who's going to show up for those two girls?
Wow. Wow. That
Yeah.
that's huge because you said something very important there, and I really want to make sure that we emphasize it. If you don't show up for you, then who's going to show up for your girls, right? You have to show up for you first, because if you don't show up for you and able to take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of anybody else? And
Like
and
it's like
so yeah.
totally like the airplane, right? When you get on an airplane, what do they tell you? You put your oxygen mask on first because you can't help anybody else if you don't have it on,
That's a fact. That's a
right?
fact.
Like,
Wow.
come on, people. You got to
Yeah.
take care of you first because if you
Yeah.
don't, you can't help anybody else.
Mm. And if you don't take care of you, would you say that's what when the spiraling happens and then you start to burn yourself out?
And that's where the unworthy thing comes through too, because you
Mm.
start saying all these bad thoughts in your head. And that's where anxiety comes in, depression. Anxiety is like the fear of the future. You're
Ooh.
forecasting, you're assuming things are going to happen to you and they're not because you're just making those assumptions. However, I'm a manifesting queen and I do realize when you put those thoughts in the air and those anxiety driven ideas, it will come because you're asking for it. So that's where you need to be super aware of what you're saying to yourself and how you're thinking because what you think will come. So that's where you need to stop and think about it. And depression is like the past. You're dwelling on the past. You can't change the past. The past is the past. What you can do is live in the moment, be present in the moment. Don't worry about what's going on in the future. Don't worry about what happened in the past. The past is the past. You can learn from it. And the future, you get to create. So why not change your mindset?
Whether you believe you can, whether you believe you can't, either way you're right. I
Exactly.
have never heard someone define anxiety that way. That's really cool. Not that anxiety is cool, but it's something that we're all working through. Um, but anxiety being fear of the future. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
I used to have anxiety attacks. Like I remember I would be like going to work and I had huge anxiety about going to my work. I would get to this red light. It's about 2 blocks away from my office, and my chest started to hurt. Like I honestly thought I was having a heart attack. Like you can't breathe. If you've ever had an anxiety attack, that's what it feels like. Like your chest hurts so bad, it feels like 100 pounds is on it, and you can't breathe. And
hmm.
it's like I'm forecasting what's going to happen. Well, I'm just making shit up in my head. Well, sorry, I don't know if I can swear.
You're good. You're good. You're good.
Keep that out. But that's what you're doing is you're just making things up in your head. But that's not even true.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when it comes to the present, and the cliche is that the present is a gift, right? But it couldn't be more true. It couldn't be more factual. You know, I was in an Uber the other day, and I talked about this a few episodes ago. I was in an Uber a few days, like a couple weeks ago now or so, and this Uber driver, he was like, and if you're listening, Uber driver, because I share my podcast with you, I'm shouting you out right now. But anyways, so the Uber driver goes, "You seem like a positive person," and I said, I was quiet. I didn't respond. And he doubled down. He said, "You seem like a really positive person." And I heard him. I just didn't say anything at that moment. And he says to me, people always say like, glass half full, glass half empty. And I said, "You seem to me like a glass half full kind of guy, because I'm a glass half full kind of guy myself." And I said to him, "I'm going to surprise you, sir." Um, It's not about. I really think that we have that question completely incorrect and messed up. It's not about the glass being half full or the glass being half empty. It's about having a glass to begin with. Because if I got a glass, if I have a life that I can pour into, my friends, family can pour into me, at least I have a glass, right? So being thankful for what you have and having the ability to pour into yourself and have others
Yes.
pour into you. So I'm really big on that.
That's amazing. I love that. Love it.
And so, your glass half empty, your glass half full, get that out of here. That's a limiting belief. That is a limiting belief. You're saying my glass is only half full. So what you're telling me is I can't fill my glass. Not only are you saying I can't fill my glass, you're saying I can't continue to pour into it. And get it. And sorry, I'm going off on that tangent here, but
That's okay. I'm a rabbit hole kind of girl too.
so, so let's talk about though the idea of just having that glass, okay? For a moment
Yeah.
here. Because you have to at least just show up. You talked about showing up for yourself and you talked about showing up for your kids, and if you weren't around there'd be nobody show up for them. So
Yeah.
tell me this. How did you start building the foundation of working out of that depression, that not wanting to be there anymore?
Journaling has been a huge, 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 huge thing for me. Gratitude journaling. And you know what? At first, I just wrote, I am grateful for this. I am grateful for that. Some of the stuff I didn't even believe, but
Ooh.
I had written it down. And then sometimes I had to just go as simple as, I am grateful for this cup of coffee because it tastes delicious. Like some days I was not feeling it, but then I had to look for the good. That is the whole point of gratitude journaling, self
Real quick,
awareness.
before you continue, I have to ask, because now everybody's wondering. Um, this cup of coffee is saying tasting great. Now this is going to turn into a right or wrong answer for a lot of listeners here. How do you drink your coffee?
Oh, black. Whipped cream once in a while, but my first cup or two is for sure black. I love Americano. Yeah, it's my fave.
I'm just gonna let you know that 95% of the listeners here probably is like she's out of her mind.
No. Do you know what's funny? Okay, I gotta tell you a funny story here. My
Please.
best friend was laughing because this guy was like talking about buying me flowers. He's like, if he buys her flowers, they're gonna go in the garbage. You buy her a cup of coffee, man, you got her hard. That's totally how I am. I'm like, don't waste your money on flowers. Buy me a freaking cup of coffee. Oh my gosh.
I hear that I could hear that you are getting butterflies already for the next individual who gets you a
Oh
cup of
yeah, there
coffee.
we
That's
go.
hilarious.
Yeah. Line up the Starbucks card.
There you go. so
Just kidding.
so you we you start to build that foundation, and it starts from like the roots and everything. And you mentioned something, when those moments where you feel like giving up, and you had an analogy about that. Would you mind explaining that to everyone?
Analogy, which one?
The tree.
The tree. Oh yeah. So the tree, when you plant a seed of what you want, you got to put in the work because then the more work you do, the roots are going to grow deep. And
Mm.
you have to have that solid foundation before you can bloom on the top. That's like the best analogy or comparison of this is working out. You're overweight, you have that 20 pounds to lose. You have to put in the hard reps. You have to be diligent with your eating. You have to work out and build that solid foundation before anything else happens on the outside. Like you have to do the work and get those roots deep before anything else can flourish. It's like that bamboo thing. Like bamboos take, I think, 8 years. I can't even remember what it is before they actually shoot up. Like they are grounding so deep for years before anything happens above. And then you think, oh, well, it's not happening. Well, the magic is happening. You just can't see it. So that's why you got to put in the work because that's where it is. The diligent consistency of just showing up every day, like your glass of water. You put one drop in every single day before you know it, that glass is overflowing.
Yeah.
But if you quit putting the drops in, you're never going to fill up that cup.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So building that foundation is so important. But you mentioned that sometimes when people are working on getting to their goals and getting to their dreams, but they're still not seeing anything happening. Um, how does one work through that? How do you continue going? How do you not give up? Because that's pretty difficult to be working on
Mhm.
something and then not seeing any results. How does one continue showing up through that?
I know. It's like you got to just trust. Oh, trust is huge. Trust, trust, trust.
Mm,
Trust the process, trust the journey, trust yourself that it's going to happen because it will happen. It has no choice but to happen. If you're
yeah.
putting it in, it's going to happen.
You know, that is so real because if you then give up, if you then stop before you achieve whatever the greatness is you're looking for, you want to start back up later on, which I suggest that you do. However, comma, if you stop, you have now told yourself that you can't trust yourself. You're saying, hey,
Yeah.
I don't, you have told your brain that you can't trust yourself to finish this out. And those messages that we tell ourselves are are loud, whether we realize it or not. They're loud and they speak volumes to our inner subconscious when we're trying to work towards a goal and we just stop. And I truly believe that so much of it, once again, like you've been saying, is just showing up. And with you and your social media and your content and everything, I noticed that you show up consistently every day. Late night talks, late night walks with Amanda, right? Like you just continue showing up. So when it comes to your content and you expressing your authenticity to your listeners, what are you hoping to convey every time you show up?
I just want to inspire one person. If I can inspire one person, that's all it is. Like I have hope, right? Helping one person every day.
Come on now.
That is it, right? Like yeah, I know you totally believe in hope. Like helping one person. And I remember, I'm going to share a quick story. I remember when I
Please.
first started, there was people really close in my life that were very uncomfortable with the changes I was doing. And they actually told me to stop. They asked me to stop. And because it was making them uncomfortable and other people uncomfortable. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. Like, that is not my intention. I want to help people. I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. And I almost stopped. And then I'm so glad I didn't because you know how many DMs I get of people saying, thank you so much. I needed to hear that today. You're such a light. You're such an inspiration. I really needed that today. That is why I'm doing it, to show up for them. Those people that need my light shone into their dark hole because I was in that dark hole. And I want to be that light for them and say, hey, you're not alone. There's so many people in those holes too. And let me get you out. I will get down in that hole and grab my shovel and we will get you out of there.
I love that. But you mentioned even though you've gotten a lot of those DMs and everything like that and people happy about all the things that you're posting, the first time that you posted, how did you feel about that?
Oh, I almost threw up, like legit. Like there was
I'm
like I could
sorry.
feel the acid reflex happening in my throat. I'm like, and I had like text all over my face. Like it was ugly, but I did it, and I was sweaty. It was the most nerve-wracking thing, and I was shaking. And actually, I just made a recent post about this because there was this girl that showed up on my TikTok for you page, and she was shaking, she was vibrating, she was doing a tarot reading, and she knew her stuff but she was so nervous and she was just vibrating. And it was her very first post ever. And I'm like, are you lucky to land on my page? Because I'm going to shine my light on you, girl. You showed up. It was amazing. And I loved on her. I'm like, good on you for showing up. Like she did it. And that is the first step is just doing it. Because if you don't do it, you're never gonna do it. You gotta just take
Show
that
up.
leap. And it's so scary. But once you do it, it gets easier. Like burpees. The first one sucks. But as you get at it, You eventually start to love them. I don't care what anybody says, you're gonna love them one day.
Hmm. Um.
You're like, I beg to differ.
uh, wow, this isn't this isn't too inspirational from your mindset coach Tariq Williams here. But I guess that's not why I'm mostly joking. Mostly. You got to find out what works for you. But no, I completely agree.
I'm just totally teasing.
No, I actually just talked about this literally with one of my a few episodes ago with Coach Paul. And he talks about, I literally asked him the question, like your first burpee that you did versus like when you did burpees like a year from then, right? Because then your body becomes more conditioned for the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And because
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
once you run a mile, there's no doubt it's gonna be difficult.
Yeah.
However, that 100th time you run 1 mile, not like the 100th mile. Like if you're running 100 miles in a row, the 100th mile is probably not gonna feel great. But like the 100th day that you run a mile, like your body's gonna be conditioned to do the thing, and that goes with anything. Would you
Absolutely.
agree?
Absolutely. And like you're totally right with running. Like when you start running and you're doing it, like it's brutal at first. And then as you start doing it, it gets better and better. And you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then you quit. And then you start up again. And you're like, oh my gosh, my lungs are burning, my legs are hurting, like everything hurts. Well, if you didn't stop, that wouldn't have happened. So that's why you got
Right.
to just continuously keep doing it.
Right. You know, like you start doing it, and then all of a sudden you stop and you try to do it again, and it's like my back, my knee, my back, and my knee. So, like, for sure,
Yeah,
your body,
absolutely.
you gotta you gotta condition yourself to trust yourself to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
and I would say the things that you want to do, and going back to that love piece, I think is important. So I'm going to share a story with you, Amanda. So once upon a time, it's not exactly a fairy tale, not exactly a fairy tale, but well, I guess it has a cool ending. So I was being interviewed after I performed at a disability event. I did some poetry, I did some rap. I'm a creative. Fun fact for those who don't know, I do poetry and rap and things like that. Um, and so I just finished performing and I was getting interviewed. And the last question she asked me was, how are you able to express yourself and do the things that you do? Like, truly to your core, how do you do it? And I took a deep breath and I just said the first thing that came to my mind. And it was love. But love in the sense of loving who I am, loving what I do, finding ways to do the things that I love so that I can, at the end of the day, I did what I love. I'm happy. And that was really important to me because I think so often we find ourselves doing things that we don't love, that being stuck in the box that society wants to put us in instead of showing up for society, once again should be showing up for ourselves.
Totally. Or doing that job that you absolutely hate, but it's a paycheck. You go to work miserable, you come home miserable, so your family feels the heat. Like, what a great life to live, hey? I lived it. I was there. I was there. So I totally get it. Like, and that's not fair to your family, right? That's not fair to your spouse. That's not fair to your kids. You go
Yeah,
to work to a job that you absolutely hate and you have anxiety going to work, right? You bring
yeah,
that home. Like, how do you leave that at work? You can't because that's a part of you and you're just miserable. So, how do you do that? How do you change it? You got to make some very uncomfortable moves,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You got to take that step.
You know, you talked about bringing that home. Um, you know, I think that sometimes when we talk about this theme of showing up, right? Um, you could show up in the way that you want to show up, or you show up in a way that you don't want to show up, and then other people see that negativity. Like you think you're hiding it, but you're not, right? Like you're hiding. You think that you're hiding, but the people are recognizing that you're not yourself.
Mhm.
Um, and
Or they
so,
don't even know who you are if
ooh,
you're so wounded. That
ooh,
could be another thing. Like that's where I was at. People are like, when I started like pulling off these masks and these layers, they're like, who is this person? Like, that's not Amanda. Because they
mm,
didn't know who I truly was because I was wearing all these different masks.
yeah, yeah. So, as we, as you, and correct me if I'm wrong here, transformed into the person who you are today, to being in that dark place and, excuse me, being in that dark place and wanting to be gone, and then recognizing, like, well, who's going to do this? And developing a love for yourself. And to be able to then love others. And, like you said, being able to give yourself the oxygen mask first so that you can help others with their oxygen masks. Um, what would you say, Amanda, to the person who is still feeling stuck, that's still feeling down, that is feeling that hurt and vulnerable and no longer wants to show up for themselves?
They are so worthy. They're
Mm,
worthy of their own love. They're worthy to be loved. They are loved. They are so loved. Like they were put here for a reason and that they need to discover that love for themselves. Look in the mirror. I had no idea, Tarek, that nobody does mirror work. I actually had been doing it for a while now, but people don't do it. They don't look at themselves in the mirror and tell themselves how much they love themselves and look at themselves and see how beautiful they are. Like I honestly have like the chat or the Snapchat filter in my eyes. Like that's what you see in Snapchat filters is what I see in the mirror. Like I think I'm the most beautiful person in the world. I love myself so much. And I'm like, you are such a badass. Like you, sorry, I did it again.
you're good. You're good.
I'm like, what you've done and what you're doing, you are such an amazing person. Like I do that all the time when I'm brushing my teeth. I look in the mirror and I'm like, go get it, girl. Like you've got this. So I need like I'm teaching my kids to start doing that. Even in mirrors, like I didn't even own a full-length mirror for years. I would never look at myself. Never. That's
Mm,
crazy, right? But there's so many people out there that don't do it. So you just need to do the mirror work. And I know Mel Robbins, she's huge into that.
yeah.
Look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah. I don't want to just gloss over this. Why didn't you want to look at yourself in the mirror?
Because I thought I was ugly and I didn't I I had the self-belief that I was ugly growing up. Like I never had boyfriends. I was the ugly duckling and I didn't feel worthy. Um I was
Mm,
disgusted with myself.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a lot of hatred towards myself as a kid.
Wow.
Lots. And it was a lot of old belief systems pushed onto me. Of course, I incorporated them into my life because that's how it is, right?
Yeah.
Adapted. So now that I'm a mom, I get to push on different belief systems out to my girls. And I'm like, you guys have no idea how lucky you are to have me as your mom. Like they come home from school and they're like, Mom, we had this motivational speaker today. And he said exactly what you tell us all the time. I'm like, really? Aren't you lucky?
Wow. They got one right at home with them.
They got it. But they don't listen because it's mom, right?
Yeah.
I just need to have a motivational speaker like speaking through a speaker system or something here that it's not me.
Perspective is everything, right? And I think some of the people, they don't necessarily recognize the power of perspective. And so, when I'm connecting with people, and I'm sure like when you're connecting with your girls or with your clients, like you do your absolute best to meet them where they're at and developing those connections and what that looks like. Because, you know, I mean, I'll say this, you know, they say like, oh well, mom's just saying that, but the fact that your girls came home and said, mom said that, like at least they knew that you said it, right?
Yes.
It's in there.
Yeah,
It's in there.
exactly.
That's
Perspective, that's another good touching point. Like
mm,
when I was deep down in that hole, I used to be super judgmental. I would judge everybody. And that's because I was hurting. Hurt people hurt people.
mm,
And when you're like judgmental, you judge people because there's things about them that you wish you had and you're jealous. It's a mirror reflecting, right? So you're like looking at them and it's you're wishing that you had that. You're jealous.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So Amanda, I gotta say, I really love your energy. And I could tell that you really care about what we're talking about and the themes of showing up and being you in your journey and getting through the place where you were at. Um, would you say that's what fuels your fire when you speak? Like, do you feel like you almost, I don't want to say you relive it, but you could change my words when we get there. But like, would you say that you almost like remember where you were then? And does that fuel your fire for your passion for the work that you do?
Oh, absolutely. Like
Mm,
passion is a great word.
yeah.
Passion is excitement and anger put together. Like you have enough anger to make changes, but yet you have the desire to do it. Like it's just the excitement of it. So passion is like anger because you want to make change, but yet you have that desire to do it. So I love that word passion because it's just like fire. And that's exactly it.
Love it. Love it. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I'm getting excited.
I know I can see you.
right. For those listening, you guys aren't seeing all like the head bobs I'm doing. But you know, you're 1,000% right. Because people always talk about finding their passion, but I don't think they always know what that means. See, I'm a big believer in it's not about finding your passion, it's about putting passion into whatever it is you're doing. And you talk about
Totally.
excitement and anger, like you're putting that excitement and anger into what it is you're doing.
Yes.
See, if I say swimming is my passion, and I'm showing up to swim, right? But I don't really like swimming. So like I'm not putting passion into it. So I'm just sitting here like feet in the water. That's not passion. What are we doing? So I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. So then the individuals then who are having a hard time finding their spark, um, what what would you say to that person?
Hmm. Just do it. You
Nike.
because you don't know until you do it.
Come on now.
Oh, like stretchy. I just had this conversation with a friend of mine tonight. Like, I'm like, oh man, I've been like stretching beyond belief lately and just trusting that it's going to work out. You have to. It will work out. If you keep doing it, keep showing up. Not saying you're not going to fall flat on your face. I have fallen flat on my face so many times and
Mm.
like almost giving up. But then if I give up, then it's not going to happen ever. Like, like I don't know about you if you knew the story. Like I almost didn't have a place to live. Like I was in the middle of my separation and
Oh.
I lost my job, so I couldn't get a mortgage. I was literally shoving things, my belongings into a storage unit. And it was too short of time to get a house rental. I was like, am I going to live out at a hotel room? Like I had no idea. But I was relentless and I did not give up. And then I was supposed to go on a vacation to Montana with some friends. And I'm like, I can't go. I don't have a job. I don't have a house to live in. Like, you guys, I can't do this. They're like, yes, you do need to do this. I'm like, you are crazy. I can't. Well, I did. And it all worked out. I didn't, trust me, it wasn't a fun vacation. I cried in the hotel room probably three-quarters of the whole time.
Wow.
But I was on the phone with my lawyer. My lawyer was amazing. And my banker, like, we made it happen. We jumped through. It was not easy sailing, but I made that happen. And now I'm in my beautiful home for 2 years now. It happened,
So
but I didn't give up.
that must have been pretty scary though, right? To be
Oh,
on like the verge of homelessness and going through a divorce and
Yeah.
Like how
Yeah.
yeah, like I guess how do you sleep at night when those things are happening?
Uh, it wasn't good.
God. Yeah.
Yeah. Not good at
Yeah.
all.
For
Yeah. It
sure.
was, yeah, not good at all.
Yeah.
But I trusted that it was going to work out.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
did. And I had some amazing people behind me too, which is huge, which is part of your self development thing. You have to find your support system. And sometimes those people that are closest to you aren't your people. You don't know it until you start going through the hard stuff. They show up. There's certain people that'll show up for you, and you have to surround yourself or just find people. Like I had coaches have my back, which was unreal.
Yeah.
They helped me through so many things.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So, Amanda, as we, get ready to wind down here a little bit, when you talk about your journey and just showing up and even in some of the darkest times, still believing that it's possible is so important. See, I'm a big believer about not using words like if or try. We're gonna work through it. We're gonna trust the process. We're gonna keep going, and that seems to be the same themes that you have been able to work through your, not having a home, going through the divorce, being at that dark place where you weren't sure, if you really wanted to be anymore, and then, then thinking about your why, your why being for your kids and your why being able to show up for them and be a great role model for them, take care of them, and ultimately that meaning loving yourself. And I think that is such an important message for everyone to understand. um
Mm-hmm.
Amanda, this has been great. When people want to connect with you, and what are some of the different things you're working on with your coaching right now?
Right now, actually, I am doing starting June 1st, I will be doing a 30-day how to build up your positivity. So every single day, I'm going to be posting on my socials how different things that I have implemented. So I know it works. I've implemented each one of these things into my life
Mm,
on how to build up your positivity and build up your self worth, your self confidence, and get yourself in a better light. And I have it going through my email list. So you have to get on the email list in order to be a part of it.
mm,
And I will give you the link so you can share that with your people. And as a thank you, I'm going to give my people that sign up a free 30 affirmations that are going to boost up your self confidence and your self worth and your build up your positivity. And
yeah,
it's going to be all intertwined, like it's all connected.
yeah.
And I know it works because I'm living proof of it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm hearing your story right now, and I'm like, gosh, like, woo. Amanda went through it, but who better to learn from than somebody who has gone through it and is showing you that your proof right here in front of us, that doesn't matter how difficult times can get, that you can still be able to work through it and then be able to help others through it as well.
Yeah. And
That's
when we help
amazing.
others, those others help others because they want to share it with them. Because once you get into this, you feel so good, you cannot not share it.
You can't not share the positivity of the podcast right now, ladies and gentlemen,
That's
everyone, all
right.
individuals here. It's you know, I have this friend, and she's really funny because she talks about the fact that like she really gets her energy from other people, right? Like being around like people who are high energy and having fun, and she has no choice but to feel like she's having fun. And I think it's so important, like, you know, a ways back, and then I'm gonna, I don't typically give a word, but I will give a word today. And I'm gonna have you finish this off with one word as well that describes uh I'll get to that in a moment. But I I want to say this. You know, I'm a big believer in the word spread. And when I say the word spread, it's like, oh, like you're talking about being sick. Don't spread. I don't want your germs. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Um, the energy that we spread in the world is a real thing. What it looks like to pay things forward sometimes. Don't spread germs. Cover your mouth. Use a tissue. Wash your hands. However, comma, spreading that happiness, spreading that joy, spreading that empowerment, I could tell is definitely a mission that we both share.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. That's amazing, Amanda. Um,
Yeah.
Amanda, if you could give me one word that describes, we talked a lot about this showing up piece here. And I look forward to being able to check out those affirmations, the 30 days of affirmations that you were talking about, and that positivity and what that looks like every single day to just start to train your mind a little bit differently. Um, Tell me, Amanda, when it comes to one word, when you think of the importance of showing up consistently, um, what comes to mind?
I will actually share with you. I know all of us do this, but we have like a word of the year. And mine this year is trust. So that's the word. You got to trust the process. You got to trust yourself. You're going to trust that the universe, God, the higher self, whatever you believe in, is there for you and they have your back. You got to just trust. It's going to happen.
People, if you've taken nothing away from the podcast today, I don't know what it is you're going through right now, but I would tell you all to truly take it in, because Amanda just poured into y'all right there. All right. I don't know if your glass is half full. I don't know if your glass is half empty, but now it's definitely probably getting ready to overflow, because you have to learn to trust yourself. I completely agree, Amanda. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was
Thanks.
awesome.
Yeah. This is
Um,
so much fun.
this was fantastic, Amanda. Amanda, where do people find you on social media? Where do they find you?
My handle is Manifest Boss Babe. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and on Facebook.
Awesome. Sounds good. So everybody follow her everywhere. Share the podcast with a friend and family who needs to learn how to trust themselves today. Because I think, we started off this podcast today and we went from, the start of that word unworthy and feeling that, because we've all been there. We've all felt unworthy, like Amanda was saying, but yet taking that and recognizing that you can, that you will, and you just got to trust yourself to get there. Um, Even when times are tough and you hit the obstacle, trust yourself. Trust yourself. You're you. You got it. You got it. Just keep it pushing. You have a glass. You have a glass. Amanda, any final words for the people?
Oh, you have a glass. That was amazing. Yeah, just be the shining light. Show up for yourself so then you can shine your light onto someone else.
Perfect. Perfect. Shine your light so that they could shine it for someone else and
Yeah,
moving forward. And how about that for a cycle? And with
yeah,
that,
exactly.
everyone, thank you all so much for listening today. I hope you're all able to get some value from this today and just be able to continue to shine your light. You dim your light for no person, because you're you, and that's what makes you great. Thank you all for listening to the Speak Your Vision podcast. And not only I am Vision of Hope, but we are Vision of Hope. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Amanda.